Hello everyone. Although it may sound terrible, all natural disasters cause panic among the population. This is especially true because most people simply don't know how to act in such situations, what to do or where to go. To avoid wrong actions and help your friends and family, you should know what to do in any circumstances. That's why we've decided to talk about the rules of behavior during a natural disaster. Obviously, we hope you don't have to live through a similar experience, but who knows what might happen. So here are 10 useful tips for surviving a natural disaster. Let's get it on. Earthquake. If you haven't experienced this natural phenomenon, we'll tell you a little about it. Tectonic movements inside the Earth usually cause earthquakes. The truth is that this phenomenon is not so unusual, but it doesn't always have catastrophic consequences. Many times, quakes occur under a huge layer of oceanic water, so we just don't feel anything. However, anyone can live through an earthquake, so it's important to know what to do to survive. First of all, if you feel an unusual movement, don't panic. You can't change the situation anyway, so save your strength to save yourself. If you are inside a building, especially on a high floor, you have to find a safe corner and lie down on the floor. Don't forget to cover your head with your hands to protect it from falling pieces of glass and objects such as plates, glasses, statuettes, or plaster on the wall. Heavy furniture such as closets can also fall off very hard. If you're in an old building with only a few floors, take your documents and run away. Try to get away from tall buildings and trees. Find an open, safe space. If the earthquake started when you were on the road, get out of the vehicle immediately and lie down in a horizontal position. The same instruction applies if you're in a lift. Following these rules will help you to be as safe as possible during this cataclysm, but if you think that our advice isn't enough, you can find more information on the web. Flooding. You probably know something about this natural phenomenon, but do you know what to do if you suddenly find yourself in the middle of a flood? Probably many will think that you have to call the rescuers and wait for them to arrive and save you, but it's not like that. Water is a very dangerous element, and in case of an emergency, you have to fight against it. We'll explain how. If you live in a place where floods are common, you must always be prepared. You should keep money, documents, and other items of value in a dry place so that you don't spend time looking for them during the disaster. Don't forget to buy an inflatable mat or a life preserver because you'll definitely need them. But if the flood was unexpected, the water entered your house and you're not ready, then listen. First, you have to unplug all the appliances because everyone knows what happens when water meets electricity. We also recommend you to close all the windows and doors to stop the water from entering. If you notice that you're wet, look around, search for a floating object and hold on to it. And what to do if you've been waiting for a while, there's no help and the water keeps rising? Just swim. But first, take off your clothes and shoes, take a deep breath and don't let go of the floating object you found. And one more recommendation that may sound silly but really works is don't panic. If you stay calm, you have a much better chance of saving yourself. Volcanic eruption. Normally, the media informs everyone about the approach of this disaster so that everyone can leave the danger zone calmly and without haste. If you're lucky, if you were able to leave the cataclysmic site beforehand, and the stones, ashes and gases start to fly somewhere far away. But if for some strange reason you couldn't run away, it's time to take out the respirator and glasses you should have put in your backpack before visiting such a dangerous place. Obviously, you'll be safer inside a large solid building, but if you're outdoors, all you can do is find a high place and wait for the lava rivers to pass you by. But the best solution will be to stay away from potentially dangerous sites. Although if you are very eager, you can visit them, but be very careful. Tornado. Sometimes a storm which is already dangerous enough comes with a companion, a tornado, a whirlwind of spiral-shaped air that destroys everything around it. Normally, meteorologists warn about the approaching disaster about 15 to 30 minutes before it hit a place. Once you hear the news, you don't have much time to prepare. For example, you can't run away even if you are Usain Bolt. So the best option is to hide, especially in an underground shelter if you have that option. If you don't have it and you don't even have a basement, then you can hide in the bathroom away from the windows, for example. The most important thing is to not peek out even if you do want to see what a real tornado looks like. For that, you can just watch some videos on YouTube. Then when you're absolutely sure that it's all over, it's time to face the consequences. Make sure you're not hurt, check your house for damage, cry cry over the pile of things you'll have to buy again, and don't forget to help the injured. Landslide. Mountains usually seem very big and still. Well, seriously, have you ever seen this giant get up and go somewhere? But even if the mountains don't move, stones and layers of rock do so willingly. We, of course, don't envy you if you are in such a situation, but we're here to help you with advice. If you're in an open area and you notice that the stones are trying to crush you, curl up and cover your head with your hands. Better if you have a helmet around. If the disaster caught you at home and you can't escape, stay on the second floor, in the attic or on the roof of the building. When it's all over, we don't recommend you to relax immediately, as you have to be alert for several hours. The landslide can continue, and we really want to prevent victims. Avalanche. If a little snow on your neck seems pretty nasty to you, imagine what it would be like to run into a huge pile of snow rushing towards you. Of course, it's best not to disturb it and move aside, but sometimes snow travels too fast. If you've experienced this problem, we recommend you that you first get rid of the unnecessary stuff to make walking easier. It's also a good idea to hold onto something still and big like a tree trunk. But if that didn't help and the snow covered you up to your nose, try swimming to the surface. Although this method only works while the snow is moving. Once it's stopped, the snow practically becomes concrete. If you realize you're trapped, just wait for the rescue team and save oxygen. And remember that the rescuers with their dogs are already running to save you. Forest fire. Imagine you're on a picnic with your friends, enjoying the sun and the scents of the forest, and suddenly you notice a strange smoke. Don't be afraid that your friends might consider you too paranoid. Forest fires are really quite dangerous, so if you see any strange smoke in the forest and animals and birds are running and flying, it's a sign that you should follow their example. But don't panic. First, try to understand where the fire is coming from. You can do this by simply climbing a hill or a tree. Once the source is identified, find your friends who will surely try to flee in the opposite direction. The fact is that during a forest fire, you have to run perpendicularly to the fire and against the wind, but don't take too long. Forest fires can travel up to 130 feet a minute, so you probably don't have time to pack your things. By the way, if you have water with you or see a lake or river next to you, wet your clothes, hair, and expose body parts. Drought. Yes, drought is not a very common phenomenon in most countries, but it is still one of the most dangerous natural disasters. An increase in temperature, together with a great dehydration, seems to us enough reason to think beforehand about measures to survive in these conditions. Normally, there are special services that warn beforehand about this phenomenon, but you can see for yourself if something strange is happening with nature. You live in an area with few bodies of water and the weather is too hot. It's a sign that this might end badly. To survive the drought without melting, you have to have enough water, light clothing, some cool shelter like a basement, and emergency power supplies, for example, solar batteries. It seems to us that it's quite obvious that during the drought you should spend as little time as possible on the street and not forget about fire safety rules. Even something that doesn't seem very flammable to you can suddenly light up like a match and cause a lot of problems. Snowstorm. The first rule to surviving during a snowstorm is to stay home. Of course, you're much more likely to survive if you're surrounded by four walls, a TV, and a heating system. But if for some reason you had to leave your home or the storm caught you on the road, we're going to give you some advice. In winter, you always have to have an extra gasoline container and a water bottle in your car. If you have to wait a long time, you will certainly be very thirsty, and it's not a good idea to drink snow. You should also have a flashlight, a charger for your phone, a lighter, and some food lasting for a long time. If you don't have a vehicle, you should find shelter as soon as possible. It could be a cave or a place underneath which you can hide. But if there's nothing like that, you can build a snow shelter. You can also make a campfire, and you should stay in one place. This way you'll save your strength and help rescue workers find you. Tsunami. Finally, we will talk about one of the most destructive natural disasters in the universe. Huge waves that invade the coast, ending with everything in their path for several miles. It is a truly creepy image. But even in case of tsunami, there are actions that can save your life. For example, if you find yourself on the beach and the water begins to drift away at a considerable distance, it's not an invitation from nature to look for coral or other marine decorations. Normally, before the arrival of a tsunami, the tide drops considerably, so it's a warning to stay away from the beach. The further and higher you are from the sea, the greater your chances of saving yourself. If for some reason you can't run away to a high place, try to find the highest point of a solid building, or in extreme cases, a large tree you can climb. In case the wave catches up with you, try to grab hold of any object in order to stay on the surface and try to swim to a building where you can climb up. But the best thing you can do is watch the news and get away before the worst starts.